Welcome back to Weekly Briefing. We are here with our panel of experts. Joining me in studio, Donna Jackson, accountant and member of Project 21. Dr. Shay Bradley Farrell, president of Counterpoint Institute for Policy Research and Education. Andrew Naggs, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense and now CEO of PASM Solutions International. And Chris Farrell, Director of Investigations at Judicial Watch and author of Exiled Emissary, George Earl III, Soldier, Sailor, Diplomat, Governor, Spy.
That's right.
Shauna Chappell, the mother of a U.S. Marine killed in a suicide bombing in Afghanistan, took to Facebook and Instagram after meeting Joe Biden, saying he was frustrated with her, even rolling his eyes and waving his hands as she tried to talk to him. In an even more shocking turn, Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, temporarily deleted her entire account. Donna, what do you make of this?
Oh, this is awful, and this is, censoring of anything that doesn't make Joe Biden look good. But it's really heartbreaking, especially for me, because, George Floyd got killed. They rose a statue, a monument. They commissioned murals through all the cities.
Right.
They sat down and had George Floyd parades. This woman lost a very young child that she will never see again. And Joe Biden was like, how much time do I have to spend pretending that I care?
Right.
And, my heart breaks for this woman. And it makes me very angry because you know what? This did not have to happen. The way Trump was doing a withdrawal was with conditions, one of the conditions actually being that the Taliban not allow terrorist attacks against U.S. citizens there or our soldiers. This did not have to happen. They were doing it in increments from 15,000 soldiers down to 2,500, and they were doing it without lives lost.
Right.
So I understand her frustration.
Right. She certainly didn't need to lose her son. And Donna already touched on it, but during that same solemn ceremony on the tarmac, Joe Biden apparently had more important things to do because he repeatedly checked his watch on multiple occasions. And of course, USA Today and other so-called fact checkers are already trying to cover for him. Andrew, what do you make of that?
This is so disgraceful, but it is par for the course for this administration. To the extent that Joe Biden, President Biden, is actually engaged with what's going on with things from 1 minute to the next, it is incredible to see the callousness with which he's dealing with these parents and who lost children and family members. As we all acknowledged, this did not need to happen. President Trump was leading a withdrawal and a negotiation process that resulted in a conditions-based withdrawal. Mm-hmm. Now, those conditions were high burdens for the Taliban to meet, but they were playing ball. And what we have to accept is that what we saw was an aspect of humiliation that whether or not it was conducted by the Taliban or ISIS-K or the Haqqani network or anyone else, it was done with the tacit approval of the Taliban. And again, this goes to the fact that we are slinking away with our tail between our legs, but Joe Biden's callousness and his continued referencing of his own son who died of cancer, but not in service, is another affront to these parents, and it's just disgusting.
It is.
And I'm sorry, Donna. And Pompeo stated recently that the reason we had not entirely pulled out is because there were not conditions present that would ensure the safety of American citizens and our allies.
That's right.
And this is, this is progressives. We hate America. You cannot show respect to the people who actually fight and keep this country safe. They have to say they hate the police. They have to show this, we hate the military. We hate anything that has to do with American institutions. And this is just another example of him doing that.
I think you're exactly right. Among the countless United States allies left behind in Afghanistan is an interpreter who all the way back in 2008 helped then-Senator Joe Biden and others in an emergency helicopter landing. According to the Wall Street Journal, the interpreter couldn't get out of Afghanistan because his visa was stuck in processing. So does anyone coming through our southern border even have a visa? Have we forgotten the crisis? Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, this is part of the schizophrenic Biden administration approach where we leave U.S. citizens, green card holders, allies, and Afghans who assisted us. We have no problem leaving thousands of them there with no way out, no path. And at the same time, if you're coming across our southern border, wide open, come on in. And then recently, there's a case in McAllen, Texas, where there was documentation of more than 7,000 COVID positive people. So, I mean, our border's a wreck. It's wide open, and we're not even going to blink. Afghanistan, blood, sweat, and tears, firm commitments, U.S. citizens and allies.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it only gets worse. And I could go on about the border, but Dr. Shea can do that.
I know, Dr. Shea, you were going to mention the border.
You know, right now we have a national security, what's the right word, Andrew? Disaster? Crisis leading to a potential disaster, both on our southern border and the instability in the Middle East. And like Chris said, I think it's indicative of this seeming disinterest that Washington has on the crazy policies that they're putting forward. I think I read a Wall Street Journal article yesterday. It says that thousands of our allies, Western allies and Afghan allies that are under threat are still in Afghanistan. Yeah. And yet we continue to let people in record numbers cross into our borders, many of whom have had COVID.
Yep. The last U.S. military plane left Afghanistan on Tuesday of this week. That same day, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters the administration is committed to Americans left behind in Afghanistan.
There is not an end to our commitment to American citizens who are in Afghanistan who want to leave. That's the same for any country in the world, for American citizens who want to leave and want to come home to the United States.
Does anyone actually believe this, Andrew?
No, it's completely disingenuous, and people understand that, but this administration has made a calculation that the American people's attention span and memory is very short. So they take the pain, the administration is taking the pain of this terrible anti-American decision at the beginning of the administration and at the beginning of his term. They're hoping that with time, the memory and the pain and the shame will dissipate. And the people will continue to be silenced. No, you're absolutely right. Look, I'm on record saying that we should not be expending resources to get anyone else out of the country until we have addressed and are certain about the American citizens, our countrymen that remain in Afghanistan. I'm a firm believer in that. I understand that that was part, that offering a green card or entry into the United States was part of the incentive to get people to work with us, but that was abused. Let's make no mistake here that there were only a couple of thousand of these interpreters that were actually serving. The rest of them were individuals who, for example, an aspect of abuse that's recorded would get a job at the embassy, work for a few weeks, waiting for their special immigrant visa application be approved, and then they would quit. It is documented that the State Department was having difficulty filling these roles because of that conveyor belt. So let's not kid ourselves. American citizens, on the other hand, we have an obligation to them, and this administration has walked away from those citizens in that greater obligation, and they must be held to account.
Yep. Don't go anywhere. When we come back from the break, we'll discuss the election audit in Wisconsin and California's recall election. We'll be right back.